Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Kerfuffle webinar with the delightful Nelly here from our division. How are you, Nelly?
Good morning, everyone. I'm very well, thank you very much. I'm not nearly as hot as I was yesterday, so that's all good. Good start.
That's good. I was at the tennis yesterday, networking, so you're lucky I didn't look like I came out of Chernobyl, to be honest. But anyway.
Yes.
Congratulations, because of course what we're here today celebrating as much as anything is the fact that it's your 20th anniversary as art division, doing fantastic websites and marketing for digital marketing for agents. So congratulations.
Indeed. Yes, thank you very much. I mean, 20 years is a very long time. It takes us all the way back to 2001, which is when I started the business. It was actually on the 11th of July, to be exact, when we registered the company. And yes, so much has changed since, because originally when the company started, we were a web design company. Yeah. We used to build super basic websites, initially in HTML, and at the time, it was sort of like a glorified online brochure. So typically the websites would be 4 or 5 pages, a little bit about the company, a few pictures here and there, contact details. And what people used to do is they would go networking. They'll hand their business cards around the room, and then on the business card you'll have the website. So if you want to learn more, this is what people do. They'll then punch in the URL and then kind of read a bit more. And so much has changed since. So obviously from a website all the way through how the browsers operate and devices and all kinds of different things.
I was going to say, just take us through a few of the most obvious ones there that that you feel have been absolutely, game changing in the way that the whole thing's developed.
I mean, obviously, a lot has changed from a technology point of view. So if you think about when was the first iPhone or smartphone used, that's roughly about 10 years ago. And so that made a massive change to how marketing is done now and basically how people consume information. So prior to the smartphone devices, most things were done on desktop computers. And obviously what we used to design and build at the time was mostly designed for desktop environment. One of the biggest shifts, both from a business perspective, from our division's perspective, but also from how businesses would do business between each other, is because of that technology. So when the mobile phones took over the number of visitors that one would get to their website from a mobile device versus a desktop device, was basically the moment when our division shifted from predominantly offering websites to offering digital marketing, and the websites being complementary to the digital marketing part of the business. Also from a property perspective, 20 years ago, the core of how negotiators used to do business would be probably mostly hitting the phones and doing leaflet drops. And you would walk past a high street estate agency and you'll have those piles of magazines, newspapers with, all their properties for sale or for let, so people would take a copy of that. That was the thing. Networking was major. I mean, we used to go to several BNI groups back then. Then you'll have all the local businesses at the BNI. Only 10 years after that, because of the smart devices, because of the changes in technology, so much changed. I mean, Rightmove obviously is a major player. About 10 years ago, they launched their mobile app, which became extremely popular for them. And obviously, that's one of the reasons why, most property searches start from a mobile device and, on the portals. But from our point of view, the biggest shift was going from being predominantly a web design agency, and we used to do branding as well at the time. We no longer do that in-house, to actually being a digital marketing agency with our website department as being a complementary arm to the digital marketing. And the reason why is because websites went from being glorified digital brochures to actually something that is there to work really hard for a business to generate leads. So it's a completely different purpose of why you have a website to begin with.
So would you say that mobile first is the biggest change?
Well, obviously, we all as businesses need to follow the consumer behavior. And so if people like to consume information from their mobile phones, then you have to consider how you can present that information in the best possible way. So from a state and letting agency's point of view, if you actually check your analytics data, you'll find that over 50, sometimes 60% of the visitors come from mobile devices. Now, there's a caveat to that because it varies depending on where you're placed. So we find that in central London, the estate agents that are selling sort of high-end properties, prime properties, there are more people using desktop devices than in areas further out. So £1 million plus type properties, they tend to still attract visitors from the desktop way. And also from a calls to actions point of view, we're finding that those would attract more phone calls. Well, as properties that are below the £1 million pound mark, you'll find that definitely you have more visitors coming from mobile devices and more inquiries are being done via things like forms and stuff like that versus phone calls. So really, what I'm trying to say is that don't just assume that because people use mobile phone that for you that's the driver. You really need to assess and analyze your data, see where you are, see who your consumer is, how they want to consume information, sort of like go from there. But yeah, mobile phones are here to stay, and I think that's probably one of the biggest changes that we've seen over the past 10 years with regards to what we do as a business, and obviously the change in how we do business between each other.
So clearly there's been a huge amount of change that you'd expect. What's stayed the same? What are the constants that have happened from when you started that are still really important regarding web design?
Yeah, I mean, we all talk about business to consumer, business to business as a form of communication, but I'm a great believer that really it's a human to human communication. And so although the devices have changed, although technology has changed, what hasn't changed is the fact that we are people and we like to communicate with people that we like, right? So likability and building those relationships between humans has always been there. So 20 years ago, I built a business on the basis of networking. I used to go at least once, if not twice a week, to a different networking group. And I would spend quite a lot of my time doing face-to-face meetings and, meeting people either at their office, our office, coffee shops and whatever. All of that has now shifted to online communication. So I spend my days on Zoom, on Microsoft Teams, or on LinkedIn. But the fundamental principle of what it is that we're doing is we're communicating. And it's that ability to form those relationships, human to human relationships, have always been there and will always remain. It's just what's changed is the medium that we use to communicate.
What was apart from being hugely successful, what was the vision you set out with at the beginning when you set up Art Division? What did you want to achieve, and have you met your goals when you set back, or have they just changed over time?
Oh, they definitely have changed. I wish I could say that when I was 23, when I set up the business, I had this massive vision and plan. To be fair, it all happened, and I think I probably...
Nelly, the key is just to pretend that was how you always intended it.
Yes, exactly. I think that when you are that young, you don't really have much fear of what could go wrong because you haven't experienced it yet. So I basically went all in, and I was super excited about the fact that I have the opportunity to build something that's mine and call it mine and etc. I mean, obviously I had to overcome lots of hurdles. And I had to learn on the job rather than on someone else's expense. I mean, usually what I would advise others to do at that age is go and learn your skill working for someone first and then set your business up, rather than what I did, which was I graduated university and then I did another degree, and then after that I worked for 6 months for someone and set up my business. So I really didn't have much experience. My vision really at first was really to have a business that I was enjoying, and I had the freedom to do what I wanted to do, and it was just exciting to be there, to do those things, to have the opportunities. if I were to look back and what I've achieved, I mean, a lot has changed throughout the years, because as you grow and as you get more clients and as you start hiring staff, you're faced with different kind of hurdles. So I've had a lot of coaching and training and mentoring throughout the years. And I think that if I hadn't done that, I probably wouldn't be where I am now. And I'm forever grateful for all those people that have helped me throughout the way. And, I continue to have coaching and mentoring, and I continue to work with people that are better than me, that are more clever than me, so that they can guide me and help me to move to the next level. So yeah, I think that right now I have a vision and I have a direction. Back then, it probably wasn't as clear as a direction, but nevertheless, it was a great learning curve.
You mentioned their enjoyment, which I think, unsurprisingly, I think is really important. Do you still enjoy it just as much, or is it a harder slog now than it used to be?
That's a very interesting question, because I mean, I don't have the energy I used to have then. I've had 14-hour days back then, and it wouldn't faze me. Obviously now, I am a bit more stingy with my personal time, and I feel that success.
You've got to have a fiesta every now and again, or
siesta. That's exactly. I just feel that success is measured not just in how many hours you work on the business or in the business, but how many hours you don't work, and having that kind of balance, if you like. So yeah, I mean, the enthusiasm is there. I'm one of those ideas people that is constantly motivated by change. So this is the reason why I'm in this industry, because change is inevitable and it's constant and it's non-stop. But at the same time, it motivates me to know that I have a very good team around me. And if I take a day off, things are not going to stop. The guys are there to do their job, and they're brilliant. They're very, very good at what they do. So yeah, it's a different level of maturity, I guess.
Well, that's one of the key things, isn't it? When it changes from it all being about you as a business to being able to, as you say, you take the day off here and now, and not everything stops. That's really, really important, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I think that businesses grow in phases, and so you need to kind of go through each phase. You need to feel the pain in each of those phases to learn from that, to then be able to grow into the next phase. But one of the key things that I've learned throughout all of that and the journey is that your team is absolutely key. If I've known that at the start, I probably would have invested more time in learning how to recruit the right people, how to plan what kind of people I need to help me grow the business. And I probably would have been where I am now sooner rather than later. It would have taken me less time, if you like, because it's those people that make things happen. And I reckon for every business out there, and including estate agent agents, who is within your team makes a massive difference to where your business is going to go in the next 12 months.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. So can I just ask you a question, just in terms of, it seems to me there's been an explosion of, let's just call them techies, or developers and everything else out there. Does that make your job easier that there's more talent to go after, or is it harder?
Well, my job personally is not in development, so my job is generally in strategy and business, and sort of the marketing strategy side of things. But to be fair, again, from a hiring developers perspective, few years ago, we took a decision to specialize in WordPress. And throughout the years, we've had various of different programmers with different skills. And obviously, again, technology changed and continues to change. But one of the biggest pain points we've had a few years ago is that every developer that would join the business would have their own experience, their own skill set, and they will have their own ways of doing things. And then you basically used to end up with websites that are based on what the skill set of the programmer is, rather than what we wanted as a framework. Yeah. So with kind of the expansion of WordPress and how WordPress became probably one of the leading content management systems, open source content management systems out there, we took a decision to specialize in WordPress and only to hire programmers that specialize in WordPress. That made a massive difference, and it helped us grow in a much easier way, because it doesn't really matter who the programmers are, because we're using the same platform, the same framework. And what we need is to hire people that know that framework and support the framework, rather than having people that are constantly moving the business in the direction they feel based on their skill set. So that's a massive change. And again, that couldn't have happened 10 or 15 years ago, because WordPress didn't exist in its format that it's now. And so that was an evolution. And I think that probably many web design businesses out there would nod their heads now, thinking, yeah, I was there as well. I feel the pain. Yeah. So I think that's probably a massive change within the tech industry. Is it easier? Of course, it's easier to find people that specialize in WordPress in particular. So it makes it safer both for us as a business, but also our clients, not to feel like if we lose a key programmer, that's it, their websites can't be supported, sort of thing. So
I remember that distinctly. You know, when I first started in the CRM space, a few of them wrote in some really vague and weird and wonderful dev languages. And there was literally a handful of people who could code in it. And the weakness of that model, as you highlighted there, is if one of them goes under a bus or leaves or whatever else, the whole company is exposed. I suppose that advantage you've got there, like WordPress, or dare I say even the likes of Salesforce and the CRM, there are so many people out there now, you're never going to be left with anything other than a huge choice of talent to go after, are you?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that this also attracts people to decide to specialize in something that they know that it's a career path. Because WordPress is now about maybe 30% of all the websites out there in the world are built in WordPress. So that's a lot of websites. And all of those websites will require programmers and people to support them, to update them. And there's going to be a lot of clients that would require new websites built forward. So I would recommend to agents, if you are looking for something that is molded to your needs, to actually go for an open source platform rather than something so bespoke and unique that you can't really change and adapt.
And would it be fair to say, Nelly, that because you've got that as well, WordPress, of course, just has loads and loads of kind of out-of-the-box integrations, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's another advantage of why we chose WordPress, is because we felt that, with every new client and any new request, we had to literally start from zero. So we would plan and then code whatever module that they would require. WordPress is a modular system. And so when someone requires something 9 out of 10, this is already coded, it's already created. And what you do is you just take it, you install it, and it works. And so this saves a lot of money, it saves a lot of time, and the end result is there for the client to actually reap the benefits of that functionality.
More choice.
There is more choice, absolutely. And that's the thing, it's websites back then were online brochures, and that was their function. Websites today need to work really hard to generate businesses leads and obviously convert those leads into clients and instructions, etc. But things change very often, and so what you've got today might not be suitable for what the market needs in 6 months' time or in 12 months' time. So by investing in a website that is not very flexible means that you either have to rebuild your website every 2 years, for example, or it will cost you thousands of pounds in development costs to build those extras that you'll require. The likes of WordPress open source platforms, because a lot of things are pre-made and because they're driven, basically a lot of programmers are developing those things and are offering them. Some are free, some are paid, but even if they're paid, they're not very expensive. You're able to adapt and grow and mold your website as the market demands it from you. So it is just a much better long-term solution for businesses, and especially estate and letting agents, because obviously this is the area we specialize in. So all of our websites are built for estate and letting agents. So I can see how much the functionality has changed over the past few years. I mean, one of the things that we're working on at the moment is speed. And this is driven again based on Google's requirements, because one of the...
They're getting very tight on that, aren't they, Nelly, in terms of...
Yes, that's exactly it. So, I mean, again, Google is the monster we all have to please, because we all want to rank our websites in the Google results page. So if you want to play that game You have to have a mobile responsive website, because if you don't, your website will not be ranking on the mobile device, because Google doesn't like to give poor user experience to their customers. And speed is something that very recently they launched yet another algorithm update, which obviously, if your site is not fast enough, it will start going further down the ranking. So it's a very, very important aspect that you need to address. Now, if you have a site that was built in a bespoke code, to actually improve the speed of a site will take weeks and weeks of work and thousands of pounds worth of development cost. Yeah. With WordPress, again, there are plugins that allow speed optimization, things like caching. And by installing that and personalizing the settings, you immediately can improve the speeds. We went from, some websites, for example, our Google speed test was, say, in the region of 30, 40, which is pretty poor, all the way to 90 to almost 100. Yeah. And we're rolling out all kinds of updates to all of our websites, and that's going to happen over the next week or two. And so all of our websites by default will have this speed optimization. And that's something that essentially is not going to cost a penny to any of our clients. We're not charging extra for that. It's something that we do as part of our maintenance. And that's the bit that WordPress allows us to do, is that there are solutions out there which can be rolled and applied to any website that's in WordPress. And it's either going to be for very little investment from the client, or no investment if they're on some sort of maintenance plan.
So those kind of hygiene elements that are obviously to an agent might seem a little bit boring, but they're essentials, aren't they? Because as we said, without that, you don't get your Google optimization, your bounce rates, the classic experience of somebody coming to your website, something doesn't happen instantaneously. So they'd say, I'm out of here, because famously people's attention spans are shorter and shorter and less tolerant of that speed element, aren't they?
Absolutely, and that's the thing, is because really traditionally the speed is most affected on mobile devices, especially if you're not using Wi-Fi, but if you're using sort of 3G connection. And so you're absolutely right. People don't have the time and the patience nowadays to wait for slow pages to load to find the information. They want to click quickly in and out and consume and take action, because let's face it, people don't go to estate agent websites because that's a hobby or that's something they enjoy doing. They have a particular intent. They either want to sell, they want to buy, they want to, rent, or they want to let, and they're looking for the right partner to do that with. And so you're going to this website in order to either find their information, read a bit more, and then take further action, look at the properties. If this is slow, it's easier to go back and start your search again and find someone else than it is to persevere with that kind of website. So it's crucial for agents to pay attention to things like that. Yeah. But what I'm finding is that obviously it's down to what matters to them. I often explain things by kind of giving the comparison with cars, because it seems, especially the male side of the clients, tend to understand cars better than websites, But you won't go to a Formula One race with a Skoda when you're up against everyone else that is with the fast cars. You're just not going to win that race, As much as it's a car, it still will take you from A to B. It's not fit for purpose. You got to really get the right side for the right purpose. That if you want an online brochure, by all means get some sort of cheap template that's designed to work as an online brochure. But if you're expecting your website to generate you leads, if you're expecting to rank in Google organically, if you're running paid campaigns through AdWords or through Facebook, you need to have a website that allows that flexibility, allows your marketing agency, for example, to do A/B split tests, to create landing pages very quickly, to change things on those pages very quickly. And what I'm finding again with those websites that don't have that flexibility is things take so long. So you just want to change a button just to experiment, for example, whether a green button or a red button converts better. Sometimes through communication, this could take 2 weeks for someone to take action. And in marketing terms, that's not good enough, because you need to change things quickly, test quickly, to then be able to reap the benefits. You can't wait that long for things like that.
And as we understand it, Ellie, that's the whole element and benefit of something like WordPress, which essentially exposes the CMS, the content management system part of it, to the agent themselves, don't they? So they don't have to go via yourselves to change things like that.
Well, yes, if you're referring to changing things like pictures and text, right? That's absolutely correct. Where it becomes a little bit more technical is if you want to change certain modules or elements within the page that are not possible for the client. So, I mean, that's a bit like you saying, well, you could sell your own house. Of course, I can take my own pictures and I can upload them onto some sort of portal myself, and I can do the viewings myself. I can. But there's certain things that someone who does that for a living will do better for you. So it's a fine balance. Upload your own blogs, yes, by all means, but also learn how to optimize your pictures correctly, how to choose the right pictures, how to apply the right calls to actions within the blogs. Don't just plonk text and expect that that's good enough. It's not. No longer. People expect more. And I see time and time again, literally, that bare minimum effort put into sites, which then obviously give the very bad user experience. So I think, as much as we have all that flexibility, it still requires a little bit of TLC from people, so.
Well, Nelly, thanks again. I always feel like I've learned a little bit much more, which is pretty important on a daily basis. So congratulations on your 20th, and look forward to your 30th in a few years' time.
Yes, thank you very much, Simon.
Thanks. Actually, Paul has just highlighted to me, which I should just pop up on here. Thank you, Paul, for that reminder. Nelly is going to be helping us out with on our campus training platform. You've heard the knowledge and that she's got to impart here. So in a very non-salesy point of way, giving some pointers there. So anyone's interested in that and you want more of today, please get in contact. So Nelly, can't wait to see those. But for the best for now, go and enjoy your birthday cake.
Yes, thank you very much. All the best. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.